The cockpit voice recorder captures it all. The tension, the breathing, the decision that would decide the fate of millions. At 32,000 feet, Flight ZR-71 is moments from crossing into a restricted sector when ATC issues a command no pilot wants to hear. ZR-71, turn left immediately. Do not enter that airspace. But Captain Raheel Naseer doesn't touch the yoke. His eyes stay locked on a radar return that only he has noticed. A silent, fast-moving contact that shouldn't exist. ATC insists it's a glitch. The military controller says the skies are clean. But Raheel sees something different. A threat accelerating toward his country's coastline. And then he does the unthinkable. He says one word that violates every rule of aviation. Negative. In that second, alarms begin to pulse. ATC begins shouting. Military liaison frequencies activate. The co-pilot freezes. The cabin crew brace. And an entire nation's fate shifts onto the shoulders of one man who refuses to obey. What happens next is classified. But tonight, you're going to hear the real story. Subscribe if you want more true tactical aviation files like this. We're just getting started. The night shift over the Arabian corridor was supposed to be uneventful, a straight-line cruise through some of the most controlled, politically sensitive airspace in the region. But Flight ZR-71's cockpit felt strangely tense, even before things went wrong. Captain Raheel Naseer leaned forward in his seat, watching the faint green glow of the weather radar sweep in smooth half-circles. Nothing unusual. No storms. No traffic conflicts. The sky was quiet, too quiet. At least, that's what he felt. Beside him, First Officer Danish flicked through the FMC pages, reviewing fuel and wind corrections. Standard stuff. Routine. Altitude holding at 320, Danish said. ETA exactly on schedule. Raheel nodded but didn't reply. Instead, he reached for the radar gain knob, twisting it slightly. The display sharpened and something flickered. A blip, weak, faint, almost like a glitch. Then it disappeared. Raheel frowned, adjusting the tilt control. The return appeared again, only for a fraction of a second, before vanishing completely. He tapped the screen with the back of his knuckle. You seeing that? Danish looked up. Seeing what? There. At 2 o'clock, about 40 miles. Raheel adjusted the gain again. Nothing. Empty airspace. Danish shrugged. Probably ground clutter. We're over desert terrain. Raheel wasn't so sure. Ground clutter doesn't move at 600 knots. He switched frequencies. Muscat Center, ZR-71 requesting confirmation of a primary return at our 2 o'clock, 40 miles. Do you have anything on radar? The controller replied promptly. ZR-71 Muscat. Negative contact. Airspace ahead is clear. Raheel's eyes narrowed. If ATC didn't have it, but his radar did, what was he seeing? He leaned back, exhaling. For years, Raheel had flown military transport before joining commercial aviation. And there were signatures, faint, intermittent ones, that you learned to respect. Stealth aircraft, low-altitude missiles, drones operating without transponders, things that don't want to be seen. The lights in the cockpit dimmed as the aircraft passed into another sector. The hum of the engines felt louder now. Danish finally noticed a shift in Raheel's body language. You good, sir? Raheel didn't answer immediately. Behind that radar return was a nagging instinct, one he'd learned never to ignore. Let's run a quick systems check, he said. For what? Danish asked. Just humor me. They scanned NAV systems. All green. CAS. Normal. Weather radar. Operating nominally. Raheel tightened his harness. Something was coming. He could feel it. A soft tone chimed. ATC again. ZR-71. Be advised you are approaching restricted airspace. Turn left heading 240 immediately. The order was unusually sharp. Not advisory, command. Danish blinked. That's weird. We're cleared on Airways ZR-22. Why vector us off? Raheel stared straight ahead. That faint blip appeared again for half a sweep, stronger this time, before fading. He keyed the mic. Muscat, request clarification. What is the nature of the restriction? No response. Just static. Then another frequency activated. A deeper, encrypted tone. Military ATC. ZR-71, divert now. Turn left immediately. This is mandatory. Raheel couldn't unsee it. The radar contact was no glitch. It was accelerating, heading toward the coastline. Its flight path perfectly aligned with a strategic sector known for early warning sites. If he turned left, he would lose radar lock and never see it again. If he stayed on course, he would violate military orders. Danish looked at him, eyes wide. Sir? They're repeating the command. Raheel didn't move his hands from the yoke, because the truth had just clicked in his mind. Whatever that object was, it wasn't supposed to be there, and someone somewhere didn't want a commercial crew to know existed. Raheel inhaled slowly. Then he made the decision that would change the course of the night and history. He pressed the mic button. His voice stayed calm. Negative. The word hung in the cockpit like a shockwave. Negative. First Officer Danish froze, half expecting alarms to erupt instantly, as if the aircraft itself knew they had just crossed a line no pilot should ever cross. For a moment, nothing happened. Only the steady hum of the engines and the rhythmic sweep of the radar. Then ATC came alive. ZR-71 confirm. Did you say negative? Execute left turn immediately. You are entering a forbidden sector. Raheel kept his gaze locked on the radar display. The contact was back, this time brighter, moving faster, heading inland. Sir, Danish whispered, voice tightening. We can't ignore ATC. This is military airspace. Raheel didn't look up. If we turn, we lose visual. If we lose visual, we lose the truth. The truth about what? Danish demanded, anxiety cracking his professional tone. Raheel didn't answer, because he didn't have certainty yet, only instinct. But instinct had saved his life more than once. He keyed the mic again. Muscat Military ZR-71, we are experiencing a potential radar anomaly ahead. Request clarification on traffic. A harsh, clipped voice responded, not the one from before. ZR-71, no traffic exists at your 12 o'clock. You are to obey the vector now. Last warning. Raheel stared at the fading blip, heartbeat rising. Military denial. Increasing speed. No transponder. Wrong altitude. Everything about that contact screamed hostile. But why was nobody acknowledging it? Danish swallowed hard. Sir, we're risking license suspension. Detention. Worse. Raheel finally met his eyes. For a moment, the cockpit fell quiet. The kind of quiet where decisions solidify inside a person's soul. Danish, he said softly, look at that return. Does that look like a glitch to you? Danish hesitated, then shook his head. It's too clean, too consistent. Exactly. The co-pilot exhaled shakily. So what are we flying toward? Raheel didn't blink. Something our government needs to know about. Before Danish could respond, a new alarm chimed. ADS-B intruder alert. An extremely rare warning for non-transponder aircraft. Danish jolted. How is that possible? It has no ID. It means something big enough is inside our safety bubble, Raheel said. The contact grew stronger, then split. 2 returns, both accelerating, both inbound. A cold wave washed down Raheel's spine. Missiles don't show like this. Fighters do. Fighters running silent. He reached for the transponder and selected an emergency code, one that would instantly trigger a classified relay to national defense networks. Danish gasped. You're declaring a military emergency? They wanted us off this course because we're seeing something we shouldn't. Raheel muttered. Not because it's unsafe for us, but because it's unsafe for them. As the emergency squawk transmitted, a new frequency crackled on, encrypted, low-band, unmistakably serious. ZR-71, this is Northern Defense Command. Maintain heading. Do not alter course. Hold your current altitude. Danish blinked. Now they want us to continue straight. Raheel's pulse kicked. That meant only one thing. His radar was picking up something that their ground stations couldn't see. or something their ground stations weren't allowed to reveal. The military controller spoke again, voice strained. ZR-71, you are tracking unauthorized airborne assets. We need your visual confirmation. So that was why they needed him. A commercial aircraft couldn't be assumed hostile. Its radar return blended in traffic corridors. It could approach without triggering defensive escalation. They were using him as a forward observation platform. And Muscat ATC, they were kept in the dark. Raheel adjusted his seat and tightened his shoulder harness. His heartbeat slowed, the calm before a pilot enters a zone. Copy Northern Defense. Continuing straight. The radar blips merge into a single stronger contact, now 20 miles out. Danish whispered, "Sir, are we ready for this?" "No," Raheel said honestly, "but we're the only ones here." The cockpit lights dimmed automatically as the aircraft crossed into the restricted sector. Both pilots leaned forward, because whatever was in that darkness, they were about to meet it face to face. The cabin lay in near total silence, passengers unaware that Flight Czar 71 had become the front line of an unfolding military incident. Only the soft click of seatbelt buckles and the hum of conditioned air filled the fuselage. But in the cockpit, silence felt like a pressure, heavy and electric. Raheel's hands rested lightly on the yoke, ready for anything. Danish leaned forward so far his headset cord strained. The radar return strengthened again. 14 miles. 12. 10. Whatever this is, it's closing fast, Danish whispered. Raheel said nothing. His eyes stayed glued to the display. The contact moved like a predator, deliberate, controlled, without hesitation. A vibration shivered through the deck, a brief tremor, barely perceptible. Not turbulence, not wind, a shock wave. Then another. Danish tensed. Mach wakes. Possibly, Raheel murmured. Which means fighters. Which countries? That's the question. A crisp transmission cut through the cockpit. ZR-71 Northern Defense Command. Be advised, you are now within a live intercept zone. Expect visual contact in 30 seconds. Danish blurted, "They're intercepting us?" "No," Raheel said quietly. "They're intercepting them. We're just the only eyes they have." The radar return split again. Two fast-moving signatures, approaching from below their altitude. A classic intercept angle. Raheel flicked on the external lights. If they were about to meet unknown aircraft, he needed to be seen. Danish gulped. "Sir, should we descend? Climb? Something. We hold." Any maneuver might be misread as evasion. Raheel steadied his breath. This was the part they never teach in commercial training. This was pure combat instinct. The calm of someone who'd flown through airspace where mistakes end careers or wars. At 5 miles, the radar return suddenly vanished. Danish's voice cracked. "We lost them. They've gone to infrared tracking," Raheel said. "They're close." He peered into the darkness ahead. At first, nothing, just the blackness of a moonless night. Then a flicker, a reflection, a flash, something metallic catching the faint scatter of starlight. Raheel leaned forward, and then he saw it. A shape slid out of the darkness. No lights, no markings, just a razor-edge silhouette moving at impossible speed. For a moment, it almost blended into the sky like a shadow with wings. Another shape followed, smaller, agile, weaving slightly as if scanning. Danish's breath caught. "Sir, those aren't ours." "No," Raheel said. "They're not." The larger aircraft swept across their nose at barely a kilometer's distance. Close enough that Raheel saw the outline clearly. A long delta wing, no vertical stabilizer, an engine exhaust that glowed an eerie violet. This was no commercial jet, no known military type, not even among black-budget experimental shapes Raheel had glimpsed during his transport years. This thing was different. A voice burst urgently through their headset. ZR-71. Confirm visual on unidentified aircraft. Repeat confirm visual. Raheel replied slowly, still watching the two shapes carve arcs through the darkness. Defense Command, we have visual. Describe. Raheel hesitated. How do you describe something you can barely make sense of? Large craft. Delta wing. No NAV lights. No transponder. Accompanied by a smaller escort aircraft. Both maneuvering with unusual agility. Danish whispered. Unusual? Sir, that thing just turned inside its own wake. Raheel cut him a sharp glance, but Defense Command heard. Copy ZR, 71, standby. The frequency went dead. The larger craft suddenly banked hard, nose dipping toward the coastline. The smaller one followed, but briefly broke formation, circling ZR, 71 like a shark inspecting a vessel. Raheel held his breath. The unknown fighter passed down their right side, so close he felt its slipstream buffet the 737's nose. Then it stabilized, holding position off their wing. Danish's eyes widened. It's pacing us. Raheel exhaled slowly. It's looking at us. The unknown aircraft tilted one wing, a deliberate, controlled motion, like a silent greeting or a warning. And then, without a sound, without a trail, it shot forward and vanished into the night, like a stone dropped into black water. Danish collapsed back into his seat. What was that? Raheel didn't answer, because he knew one thing for certain. Whatever they had just seen, it was headed straight for the nation's coastline, and no one on the ground was prepared for it. For a moment, the cockpit felt hollow, like all sound had been sucked out of the atmosphere. Danish sat rigid, chest rising and falling in shallow breaths, eyes glued to the empty sky where the unknown craft had vanished. Raheel looked down at the radar. The return was gone. Nothing, not even residual clutter. Silent aircraft, stealth grade, hypersonic acceleration, impossible agility. None of this belonged to any known air force in the region. The radio crackled back to life. A different voice this time, calm but tense. ZR, 71, this is Northern Defense Command. We lost radar contact. Confirm last heading of unidentified assets. Raheel kept his voice controlled. Heading 065. Speed extremely high. They disappeared beyond radar resolution. Copy. Continue vector. We need any recurrence of visual contact. Danish turned sharply. They want us to follow it? Raheel didn't answer immediately. The instruction was explicit, but it was clear. Defense Command needed their eyes because ground systems were blind. They need confirmation, Raheel finally said. If that craft crosses the coastline undetected, the consequences could be... He stopped himself. The consequences didn't need explanation. Danish swallowed. Sir, why would something like that fly directly toward our airspace? Why now? Raheel tightened his grip on the yoke. Either surveillance or prelude. Prelude to what? Raheel didn't blink. Something we cannot allow to be a surprise. A moment passed before Danish found his voice again. How close are we to the coastline? 13 minutes. Danish exhaled slowly. And those things? 2 minutes? Less. Raheel nodded. He didn't have to say it aloud. The unknowns were far ahead, and military defense grids clearly didn't have them on scope. The eerie silence returned. Then, a strobe light blink of turbulence rocked the aircraft. Not natural. A pressure wave from something passing far above. Danish flinched. Was that one of them again? Raheel adjusted the trim. Could be their wake. Sir, nothing should be able to generate a wake that far above us. Nothing we know about. The cockpit windows reflected faint starlight, and Raheel noticed something else. A blur, far above their altitude. Fast. A streak. He leaned forward. There. Danish followed his gaze. I see it. Sir, that's... The streak curved sharply and vanished. Raheel immediately keyed the mic, Northern Defense, ZR, 71. We have possible visual recurrence at high altitude. Extremely fast. Unable to classify. Copy. Maintain heading. You are now the only asset with visual. Danish whispered. They're blind. Completely blind. Raheel kept scanning the sky. His pulse had settled into the calm rhythm. He only felt during emergencies where adrenaline became clarity. But something else gnawed at him. The large craft, the one with the delta wing, wasn't simply transiting. Its trajectory had purpose, precision, intent. Then Raheel saw it again, the faintest outline momentary, like a ghost phasing through clouds. He zoomed the radar manually, increasing gain to maximum. The screen crackled, distorted, and then a faint return popped in. 12 miles. Nose on. Descending. Contact reacquired, Raheel said, bearing steady toward coastline. Danish tensed. Sir, it's diving. Yes, Raheel murmured. They're entering attack profile altitude. The word sent a chill through both of them. The craft was now descending rapidly, leveling around 10,000 feet, perfectly aligned toward a coastal defense region known as Zone 4, home to radar arrays, naval communications, and early warning stations. If those were hit, the nation would go blind for minutes. In military terms, minutes are eternity, Danish whispered. Why haven't fighters scrambled? Raheel responded without emotion. They can't scramble what they can't see. The unknown object disappeared again, then reappeared, closer, brighter on the screen. 8 miles. Danish's breath caught. Sir, we're the only ones tracking it. Raheel nodded slowly. Which means we're the only ones who can warn them in time. He pushed the throttles forward slightly. Not enough to risk instability, but enough to gain precious seconds. Danish stared at him. We're chasing it? No, Raheel said. We're racing it. The coastline shimmered faintly in the distance. Lights, ports, the faint glow of a sleeping nation, and a threat was about to slice into it. Raheel keyed the mic. No hesitation. Defense Command, ZR 71. Hostile inbound. Repeat, hostile inbound. Coastline impact imminent. He never finished the sentence, because the radar suddenly exploded with a flare of light. The unknown craft had slowed, had spread its wings wider, had taken position, and for the first time that night, it was waiting for them. The radar spike wasn't a glitch. It was an invitation, or a warning. The unknown craft hovered inside their forward sector, holding position in a way no aircraft should be able to at that speed. Its delta shape glowed faintly from internal heat, like metal pushed beyond its limits, yet perfectly controlled. Danish's breath hitched. Sir, it's waiting. Raheel didn't answer. His eyes narrowed, scanning the craft's new vector. It wasn't diving anymore. It wasn't accelerating either. It was simply there, blocking the last 10 miles between Flight ZR 71 and the coastline. Another pressure wave rippled through the 737 skin. Then, flash, a second aircraft appeared, above, then sliding down alongside the first like a blade returning to its sheath. The escort had returned. Danish whispered, Are they preparing to fire? Raheel shook his head. No weapons bay open. No thermal bloom. They're not targeting the coastline anymore. Then what are they doing? Raheel exhaled slowly. They're targeting us. A new voice crackled over the encrypted frequency, deeper than before, urgent, frantic. ZR 71 Defense Command. Radar has gone fully dark on the unidentified targets. We've lost them completely. We need immediate visual confirmation. Raheel didn't take his eyes off the window. Command, they're directly ahead. 2 units, one escorting the other. Distance. Something shimmered. The larger craft tilted a few degrees. Its leading edges glowed, not from afterburner, but from some kind of electromagnetic buildup that made the air vibrate. Danish's voice trembled. So is it powering up? Raheel watched the craft's nose dip slightly, not toward the ground, not toward the coastline, but toward them. No, he said. It's scanning us. The cockpit lighting flickered. For a split second, every screen dimmed. The FMC rebooted and reloaded within seconds. Something impossible unless the aircraft had been hit by an overwhelming EM pulse. Sir, Danish nearly shouted. Systems. We just lost half our avionics, and they came back online without cycling. Raheel raised a hand. Steady. The larger unknown aircraft drifted even closer, its silhouette so precise that Raheel finally noticed a marking. Not a number, not a flag. A symbol. Circular. Segmented. Unlike anything he'd seen on any nation's registry. Whatever these aircraft were, they weren't made for being seen. And tonight, they had been seen. The escort craft rotated slightly, nose pointing toward ZR-71's right wing. A warning, a stance of dominance. Danish swallowed. Sir, they don't want us to cross the coastline. Raheel slowly nodded. They're not here to attack the nation, he said. They're here to stop us from reporting what we saw. Danish froze. So what do we do? Raheel inhaled, steady, controlled, accepting what needed to happen. We play the only card we have. He eased the throttles back. The 737 began to slow, ever so slightly. Danish blinked. Sir, if we slow down, we can't maintain spacing. That's the point. The unknown escort immediately reacted, pulling closer, wings flaring like an animal puffing itself to intimidate prey. Raheel unkeyed the mic. Danish, record this moment. Sir, everything. Cockpit audio. Our visuals. Radar anomalies. If we don't make it to the coastline, the world still needs evidence. Danish's hands trembled as he activated every manual recorder the aircraft had. The unknown Delta Wing aircraft shifted position again, now directly blocking the airway. The escort dipped a wing. A gesture, a command. Turn back. Raheel gripped the yoke. And then he made the decision that the history books would debate for decades. He pushed the nose forward, gently but deliberately, holding course, refusing to turn. Danish gasped. Sir, they're right in front of us. They won't collide, Raheel said, not with civilians aboard. The Delta Wing craft suddenly flared upward, slicing vertically, disappearing into the night with shock wave that shook the entire cockpit. The escort hesitated for a full second, a tiny, human-like moment of indecision. Then it too peeled away, vanishing in a silent burst of acceleration. The sky cleared, radar returned, systems normalized, and the coastline lights grew larger in the distance. Raheel keyed the mic, voice steady. Defense Command, ZR-71. Unknown aircraft have disengaged. Coastline clear. We are inbound. Danish stared at him, pale, speechless. Raheel didn't look away from the horizon. Danish, he finally said quietly, tonight wasn't about defying ATC. It was about not letting the truth disappear with us. The co-pilot swallowed hard. Sir, what happens now? Raheel's eyes stayed locked ahead. Now, he said, we land, and we tell them exactly what we saw. Because a threat that advanced, that's stealthy, that's silent, wasn't something a nation could afford to ignore.